If you're like me and you've beaten Resident Evil Requiem, you've probably been wondering, when are we going to get some sort of DLC for this game? And while we haven't had any formal large announcement for what that DLC is going to look like, Capcom surprise dropped a new game mode for Resident Evil Requiem called Leon Must Die Forever. And I've been playing this over the weekend, and I have to say I've been having a lot of fun with this minigame, and I've enjoyed it a lot more than even modes that we've had in the past, like Mercenaries. And in this video, I'm going to go over this minigame and if it's worth revisiting Resident Evil Requiem right now or holding out for some more substantial DLC. So let's take a look. So the goal for this minigame is essentially you play as Leon and you try to kill as many enemies as you can to get different guns and more powerful weapons, as well as go through and unlock different crates to get different upgrades and of course weapons and health, and try to work your way through this minigame to get to victor essentially and kill the final boss that you would have fought in the campaign. However, one of the ways that the game really keeps things exciting but also keeps it fresh is two things. If you die at all, you have to restart the whole entire thing and start from scratch, basically from the very beginning of this minigame. And on top of that, you can also fast track your way through different areas. Now, you can play this semi-chronologically like you played in the actual campaign of going from, the Renwood streets to the care center and then getting into some of the other areas along the way. Or you can start at the Renwood streets, for example, skip by going through these red doors essentially all the way to the Raccoon City streets and then fast track yourself to fighting Victor Gideon. It really depends how you want to approach it. However, the risk is if you try to fast track too quickly and you don't have enough weapons or enough upgrades, you might put yourself in a position where you can't beat Victor. And there are also some bosses along the way as well that you may encounter, and if you don't have enough ammunition or if you don't approach this strategically enough, you might put yourself in a position where even if you do get to Victor, you might not have enough ammo or health to properly fight and survive that encounter. And the other thing as well is a lot of the enemies, their damage has been changed. So each of these areas is associated with a level, and essentially what that level implies is how difficult or hard the enemies in that area are going to be. So of course, when you start on the Renwood streets, you're like level 1, but if you fast track all the way to Victor Gideon, he's level 20 and he's basically a giant bullet sponge. So you really want to be strategic about what weapons you bring along the way and what ammunition you have and what upgrades you have. The other thing is, as you kill enemies, you also upgrade your blood collector, which in this iteration of this minigame essentially allows you to basically unlock certain things. So what I mean is almost like Call of Duty perks. So for example, you can unlock better damage when you're shooting your pistol. You can unlock full health upgrades when you use a medical injector. And basically you kind of have this whole strategy going on where you want to make sure you're being mindful of your ammo, but you also want to kill enough enemies to upgrade your blood collector so you can get those upgrades so you can be strong enough to fight Victor. And this whole strategy, in my opinion, is actually very exciting. I originally, when I saw this, had kind of just shadow dropped and I kind of briefly played through it. I wasn't sure what I thought. I wasn't sure if I really liked this style of gaming, but after I kind of realized the difficulty to it as well as the strategy that goes along with it, I ended up really getting addicted to this. I've played through this multiple times and really enjoyed kind of trying different areas and killing different enemies and unlocking different weapons and seeing if I could actually take on Victor with what I had and what upgrades I had. And the other cool thing that they really add to vary this as well is there's certain enemies that are highlighted. And what I mean by that is they'll be highlighted with red, for example, and you might find out that they don't take as much damage if you shoot them like a normal enemy would, but they'll take more damage if you attack them with your hatchet, for example. So it also adds a varying level of strategy, but one of the motivations behind fighting those types of enemies is that they typically will drop a large gun or upgrade, essentially. So in some cases, I believe this is pretty consistent because it seemed to have happened. I'm not sure if these are fully randomized or not, but for the very first time that you encounter one of these enemies in the Renwood streets, you unlock the Requiem, for example. So you're kind of motivated to want to seek out those enemies or find those enemies in each of these different areas to try to get better weapons. Now, one thing that I will say about this mini game, and clearly this was kind of just put together for fun with Capcom, is you can kind of tell that Capcom didn't really go to the lengths to strip down some of the story elements that are going on in each of these areas, because you'll have some character dialogue that just for this type of mode doesn't really seem like it fits, because clearly this is just you going through and trying to kill enemies and move on. That was a little knock at it. And again, clearly this was something Capcom kind of put together quickly and put together to kind of add some more flair to people who've already been playing through Resident Evil Requiem. But overall, for a free upgrade, I think this is great. Now, if you do own Resident Evil Requiem and you don't see that this is listed, it's likely because you haven't either beat the game or updated it. But if you have beat the game, you just go to the extra game content section and you'll find that it's right there. But so far, I've actually been really enjoying this, and personally, I prefer this much more over any of the mercenary modes that we've had in the past. And I'm personally just really excited to keep playing through this until we get some more